Let me ask you something very honestly. How many of you woke up today and said, "From tomorrow, my life will change"? Tomorrow never comes, but habits come every single day. You don't fail in life because you lack motivation. You fail because you repeat the same small mistakes daily. And you succeed for the exact same reason, small, right actions repeated daily. Today, I'm not going to give you big lectures or complicated theories. I'm going to share 5 daily habits, simple enough to ignore, but powerful enough to completely change your life. If you practice them consistently, your thinking will change, your reactions will change, and slowly, your destiny will change. So listen carefully, not with your ears, but with your life. Most people underestimate the power of the first few moments after they wake up. They think morning is just a routine, brushing teeth, checking the phone, rushing into the day. But the truth is, the way you start your morning decides how you fight your entire day. Morning is not just a time on the clock, it is a mindset. It is the emotional and mental foundation on which the whole day stands. If the foundation is weak, no matter how good your intentions are, the day will collapse under pressure. Think about this honestly. When you wake up and the first thing you do is grab your phone, what enters your mind? Messages, notifications, news, other people's problems, other people's achievements, other people's expectations. Before your feet even touch the ground, your mind is already running a marathon. You haven't even asked yourself how you feel, but the world has already started telling you how to think. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, rushed, irritated, or drained before the day has even begun. The morning is the only time when the world is quiet enough for you to hear yourself. Once the day starts, everyone wants something from you, your time, your energy, your attention. But in the morning, before the noise begins, you have a choice. You can either give that sacred time to distractions, or you can invest it in direction. And this choice decides whether you will spend the day reacting to life or consciously responding to it. A calm morning does not mean a slow life. It means a centered life. When you wake up peacefully, when you allow your mind to settle before it starts racing, you create emotional stability. And emotional stability is not about avoiding problems. It is about facing them without losing yourself. A person who begins the day in chaos carries that chaos into every conversation, every decision, and every challenge. But a person who begins the day with clarity carries strength, quiet strength, into everything they do. Many people say, "I don't have time in the morning." But the truth is, it's not about time, it's about priority. You always make time for what you believe matters. If your phone matters, you'll pick it up. If your peace matters, you'll protect it. Even 10 mindful minutes in the morning can change the quality of your entire day. Because the mind does not need hours, it needs intention. The morning is also when your mind is most impressionable. Whatever thoughts you feed it first become the lens through which you see the world. If you start with worry, everything feels threatening. If you start with gratitude, even difficulties feel manageable. If you start with anger, even small inconveniences feel like personal attacks. This is why mornings are powerful. They silently program your emotional reactions for the next 12 to 16 hours. Notice how a rushed morning creates rushed decisions. You speak without thinking. You listen without understanding. You move without awareness. And then one small trigger, a delayed reply, a traffic jam, a harsh word, is enough to disturb your entire mood. But when your morning is grounded, you become less fragile. Life may push you, but it cannot easily shake you. A meaningful morning is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about waking up and reminding yourself, today, I choose how I respond. It is about aligning your mind before the world tries to pull it in 100 directions. When you do this daily, you don't just change your mornings, you change your personality. You become calmer. You become more patient. You become more aware of your emotions instead of being controlled by them. And slowly, something beautiful happens. Your day stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a journey. Problems still come, responsibilities remain, challenges don't disappear, but your relationship with them changes. You stop fighting life and start flowing with it. All because you respected the beginning of your day. Remember, the sun rises every morning, whether you notice it or not. But how you rise internally, that is your responsibility. Treat your morning like the steering wheel of your life. Turn it gently, consciously, and with care, because once the direction is set, the journey becomes much easier. If you want to change your life, don't wait for dramatic moments. Start with ordinary mornings. Start with awareness. Start with intention. Because how you start your morning decides how you show up in the world, and how you show up in the world eventually decides the life you live. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manage the opinions of others. They adjust their behavior, silence their truth, and reshape their personality just to fit into expectations that were never designed for them. And slowly, without realizing it, they hand over control of their happiness to voices outside themselves. But the reality is simple and uncomfortable. Your inner conversation matters far more than outer opinions. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes the lens through which you experience life. From the moment you wake up until you fall asleep, there is a voice inside your head that never stops speaking. It comments on your choices, judges your actions, compares your progress, and predicts your future. This voice can be your greatest supporter or your most destructive critic. And the tragedy is, most people allow this voice to speak without ever questioning it. They accept every negative thought as truth, every doubt as reality, and every fear as a warning sign. Think about how much power you give to others' opinions. A single comment can ruin your mood. A small criticism can stay in your mind for days. A comparison on social media can make you doubt years of effort. Why does this happen? Because deep inside, the voice of others has become louder than your own. And when your self-talk is weak, external opinions easily take control. Your inner conversation shapes your confidence. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, you will hesitate even when opportunities are right in front of you. If you keep reminding yourself of past failures, you will approach the future with fear. But if you speak to yourself with patience and encouragement, you begin to trust yourself. Confidence is not arrogance, it is self-belief built through respectful self-talk. Notice how you talk to yourself when things go wrong. Do you insult yourself? Do you replay mistakes again and again? Do you label yourself as a failure? If you spoke to a friend the way you speak to yourself, that friendship would not survive a day. Yet we normalize this harsh internal dialogue and wonder why we feel exhausted, anxious, and emotionally drained. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly. It does not care whether the words come from others or from you. If your inner voice keeps saying, "I can't," your actions will quietly align with that belief. If your inner voice keeps saying, "I'll try," possibilities begin to open. This is why mastering your inner conversation is not self-help theory, it is emotional survival. Outer opinions are unstable. Today people praise you, tomorrow they criticize you. Today they support you, tomorrow they ignore you, If your emotional balance depends on external validation, your peace will always be temporary. But when your inner voice is steady, you stop chasing approval. You still listen to feedback, but you are no longer destroyed by it. You gain the ability to filter opinions instead of absorbing them. Your inner conversation also decides how you interpret situations. Two people can face the same challenge, yet experience it completely differently. One says, "This is too much for me," and collapses. The other says, "This is difficult, but I will learn," and grows. The situation did not change. The dialogue did. Changing your inner conversation does not mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing words that are truthful but kind. It means replacing self-attack with self-awareness. Instead of saying, "I'm useless," you say, "I made a mistake and I can improve." This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. One destroys your self-worth, the other builds your self-respect. Over time, a healthy inner dialogue creates emotional resilience. You stop breaking down over small things. You stop doubting every decision. You become more stable, more grounded, and more patient with yourself and others. And this inner stability becomes visible on the outside in the way you speak, the way you walk, and the way you handle pressure. Remember, the world will always have opinions. You cannot control that, but you can control the voice that responds to them inside you. Protect that voice. Train it. Make it your ally, not your enemy. Because when your inner conversation is strong, outer opinions lose their power. And when you learn to stand with yourself, even when the world stands against you, you unlock a level of peace and confidence that no approval can ever give. Most people believe that change requires a dramatic burst of effort. They wait for the perfect mood, the right moment, or a sudden wave of motivation. They think transformation happens when you feel inspired enough to work hard for a short period of time. But life doesn't change through intensity. Life changes through consistency. Intensity is impressive, but consistency is unstoppable. And the people who truly transform their lives are not the ones who do extraordinary things once in a while, but the ones who do ordinary things every single day. Think about how many times you have started something with excitement. A new habit, a new goal, a new routine. In the beginning, the energy is high. You promise yourself you will give it everything. You push hard for a few days, maybe a few weeks. Then life happens. You miss one day, then another. Slowly the excitement fades, and eventually you stop. Not because you are incapable, but because you relied on intensity instead of building consistency. Intensity depends on mood. Consistency depends on commitment. Mood is unpredictable, commitment is a decision. On days when you feel motivated, intensity feels easy. But on days when you feel tired, bored, or discouraged, intensity disappears. Consistency, however, shows up even when motivation is absent. It does not ask, "How do I feel today?" It asks, "What needs to be done today?" Small actions done consistently may look insignificant in the moment. Skipping one workout doesn't seem harmful. Reading a few pages doesn't feel life-changing. Saving a small amount of money seems pointless. But over time, these small actions compound. Just like a tiny crack in a wall grows larger with time, a tiny habit repeated daily creates massive results. Consistency works quietly. It doesn't demand attention, but it delivers transformation. One of the biggest reasons people fail is because they overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can do in a long time. They try to change everything at once. They push too hard, too fast. And when they can't maintain that pace, they feel guilty and quit entirely. Consistency teaches patience. It reminds you that slow progress is still progress, and steady steps will always take you further than short sprints. Consistency also builds identity. When you do something daily, it becomes part of who you are. You don't say, "I'm trying to be disciplined." You say, "I am disciplined." You don't say, "I'm trying to improve." You say, "I improve every day." This shift in identity is powerful. When something becomes part of who you are, you no longer need willpower to force it. It becomes natural. There will be days when you don't see results, days when it feels pointless, days when you wonder if your efforts matter at all. This is where consistency shows its true strength. Intensity needs visible rewards to survive. Consistency survives on faith. Faith that what you are doing today will make sense tomorrow. Faith that growth is happening even when you can't see it. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means returning again and again. It means forgiving yourself for missing a day and continuing the next. Many people quit because they break their streak once and believe they have failed. But failure is not missing a day. Failure is giving up completely. Consistency is about resilience, not rigidity. Over time, consistency creates discipline, and discipline creates freedom. When your actions are consistent, your mind becomes calmer. You waste less energy making decisions. You trust yourself more because you know you will show up. This self-trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet, unshakable confidence. Look at nature. Rivers don't cut through rocks because of force, but because of persistence. The sun rises every day, not intensely, but consistently. Life itself is a lesson in consistency. When you align yourself with this rhythm, growth becomes natural instead of exhausting. If you truly want to change your life, stop waiting for big motivation. Start committing to small actions. Do them daily. Do them imperfectly. Do them even when they feel boring. Because consistency doesn't just change results, it changes character. And when your character changes, your life has no choice but to follow. Every day, without realizing it, you are feeding your mind. Just like your body needs food to function, your mind needs content to operate. And what you consume mentally shapes who you become. Thoughts don't appear from nowhere. They are born from what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and the conversations you engage in. If your mental diet is unhealthy, your emotional health will suffer, no matter how strong you appear on the outside. Most people are very careful about what they eat, but extremely careless about what they think. They count calories, but they don't count negative thoughts. They avoid junk food, but they scroll through endless negativity. News full of fear, social media full of comparison, conversations full of complaints. All of this enters the mind silently. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, restless, dissatisfied, or angry for no clear reason. The mind absorbs more than you realize. Even when you think you are just passing time, your subconscious is listening. A violent scene, a toxic conversation, a negative headline, each one leaves a small impression. One impression may not matter much, but thousands of them shape your worldview. Slowly, you start believing that the world is unsafe, people are selfish, and life is unfair. Not because it is always true, but because that is the content you consume daily. Mental consumption also affects self-worth. When you constantly compare your life with the filtered highlights of others, dissatisfaction becomes normal. You begin to feel behind even when you are doing fine. You start doubting your progress, your abilities, and your choices. This constant comparison does not motivate you, it quietly drains you. It steals joy from the present moment and replaces it with pressure to become someone else. What you listen to repeatedly becomes your internal language. If your environment is filled with complaints, gossip, and criticism, your inner dialogue starts sounding the same. You become more judgmental, more impatient, more reactive. On the other hand, when you expose yourself to positive ideas, thoughtful conversations, and meaningful learning, your mind becomes calmer and more constructive. You don't just gain information, you gain perspective. Many people say, I can handle it, when it comes to negative content, but handling something does not mean it is not affecting you. Stress does not always shout, sometimes it whispers. It accumulates quietly until one small trigger causes an emotional overflow. By then, you blame the situation, not realizing that your mental storage was already full. Being mindful of mental consumption does not mean disconnecting from the world completely. It means choosing quality over quantity. It means asking yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it just keeping me busy? Time is precious, but attention is even more precious. Whatever you give your attention to, you give your life to. A healthy mental diet creates emotional strength. When your mind is nourished with wisdom, clarity, and positivity, you become less reactive. You don't get easily disturbed by small things. You develop patience. You develop understanding. You respond instead of reacting. And this emotional maturity changes your relationships, your work, and your inner peace. Over time, conscious mental consumption changes your identity. You start thinking differently. You start speaking differently. You start making better choices without forcing yourself. Growth feels natural because your mind is being fed the right inputs. Just like a plant grows well in good soil, a human mind thrives in a healthy mental environment. Remember, you cannot expect a peaceful mind if you constantly expose it to chaos. You cannot expect confidence if you constantly consume doubt. And you cannot expect clarity if your mind is always overloaded. Protect your mind the way you protect your body. Choose what enters it with care. Because in the long run, what you consume mentally doesn't just influence your thoughts, it becomes your character, your habits, and ultimately your life. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare. Everywhere you go, there is noise, not just outside, but inside your mind. Notifications, opinions, expectations, memories, worries. The mind jumps from one thought to another without rest. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose touch with yourself. That is why silence is not a luxury anymore. It is a daily habit. And silence is not emptiness. Silence is space to breathe, to reflect, to heal. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The moment there is no external noise, the internal noise becomes louder. Thoughts they have been avoiding begin to surface. Emotions they have suppressed start asking for attention. So they distract themselves again with phones, conversations, or constant activity. But avoidance does not bring peace. It only delays it. Silence, when practiced daily, allows you to face yourself gently instead of running away. Silence does not mean you stop speaking. It means you stop unnecessary speaking, especially inside your own head. When you intentionally create moments of quiet, the mind slowly settles. Thoughts don't disappear immediately, but they lose their grip. You begin to observe them instead of being controlled by them. This observation is powerful. It creates distance between you and your emotions, and that distance gives you clarity. Daily silence brings emotional balance. When you don't give your mind a break, even small problems feel overwhelming. But when you allow moments of stillness, your nervous system relaxes. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your reactions slow down. You stop feeling constantly on edge. This calmness doesn't make you weak, it makes you stable. And stability is the foundation of strength. In silence, you start hearing what truly matters. Not the loudest voice, but the truest one. You begin to recognize your real feelings, not the ones imposed by society or situations. Many people don't know what they want in life simply because they never sit quietly long enough to listen to themselves. Silence reconnects you with your values, your priorities, and your inner compass. Silence also improves your relationships. When your mind is calm, you listen better. You speak with intention. You don't react impulsively. You understand before responding. Many conflicts don't happen because of bad intentions, they happen because of restless minds. A person who practices silence carries a certain calm energy that diffuses tension rather than creating it. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable. The mind is used to constant stimulation. When that stimulation is removed, restlessness appears. This is normal. Just like a tired body resists exercise initially, a noisy mind resists silence. But with gentle practice, silence becomes familiar. It becomes a refuge, a place you return to when the world feels overwhelming. Silence also sharpens awareness. You notice your thoughts, your habits, your patterns. You realize how often you worry about things that are beyond your control. You see how much energy you waste on unnecessary stress. And with awareness comes choice. You begin to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. Over time, daily silence transforms your inner world. You become less reactive, less impulsive, less anxious. You develop patience, not forced patience, but natural patience. You feel more grounded, more present. Life doesn't slow down, but you stop feeling chased by it. Remember, silence is not escaping life, it is meeting life with a centered mind. When you make silence a daily habit, you create a sanctuary within yourself, a place untouched by external noise. And no matter how loud the world becomes, you carry that quiet strength with you. Most people spend their lives chasing happiness, believing it will arrive when something changes outside them. When they achieve more, earn more, or receive more recognition, they expect happiness to follow automatically. But happiness does not grow from what you get, it grows from what you notice. And this is where gratitude quietly transforms the brain and the heart. Gratitude rewires your mind not to ignore problems, but to stop being imprisoned by them. The human brain has a natural bias toward negativity. It is designed to notice threats, problems, and what is missing. This helped our ancestors survive, but in modern life, it often steals our peace. We remember one insult more clearly than 10 compliments. We focus on one failure more than 100 small successes. Gratitude gently corrects this imbalance. It trains the mind to notice what is present, what is working, and what is still meaningful, even in imperfect situations. Gratitude does not mean pretending that life is perfect. It does not deny pain, loss, or struggle. It simply means you refuse to let hardship define your entire reality. You acknowledge difficulties, but you also acknowledge strength, support, and small blessings that coexist with them. This balanced awareness is what creates emotional resilience. When you practice gratitude daily, the brain begins to form new patterns. Instead of automatically searching for what is wrong, it starts recognizing what is right. This does not happen overnight. Just like physical exercise strengthens muscles over time, gratitude strengthens positive neural pathways through repetition. Slowly, optimism becomes more natural, not forced. Gratitude also changes how you experience the present moment. Instead of constantly waiting for a better future, you begin to value what you already have. This reduces restlessness. You stop living in a constant state of not enough, and this inner contentment creates calmness that no external achievement can provide. One of the most powerful effects of gratitude is how it softens resentment. When you focus only on what you lack, comparison and bitterness grow. But when you acknowledge what you have, jealousy loses its grip. You stop measuring your life against others and start respecting your own journey. This shift brings peace not only within yourself, but also in your relationships. Gratitude also improves emotional regulation. When something goes wrong, a grateful mind does not immediately panic or collapse. It responds with perspective. You still feel disappointed or upset, but you recover faster. You remind yourself that one bad moment does not erase all the good. This ability to bounce back is what emotionally strong people possess. Daily gratitude changes the way you speak to yourself and to others. Your language becomes softer, kinder, and more hopeful. Complaints reduce, appreciation increases, and this change in communication subtly improves every interaction in your life. People feel safer, more valued, and more connected around you. At first, gratitude may feel forced. The mind may resist, especially during difficult times. But gratitude is not about big things. It starts with small acknowledgements, a quiet morning, a supportive message, a lesson learned, or simply the fact that you survived a tough day. These small recognitions accumulate and slowly reshape your emotional landscape. Over time, gratitude becomes an anchor. When life becomes unpredictable, gratitude brings stability. It reminds you of your inner strength, the support you've received, and the progress you've made. It grounds you in reality instead of fear. Remember, happiness is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of perspective. And gratitude is the habit that builds that perspective daily. When you consistently practice gratitude, you don't just feel happier, you become emotionally wiser, calmer, and more fulfilled. Most people believe strength is loud. They think strength means reacting immediately, defending yourself aggressively, proving your point, or showing others that you are not weak. But real strength is quiet. Real strength is revealed in moments when you are triggered, tested, or misunderstood, and you still choose control. Your reactions reveal your level of inner control, not the behavior of others. Anyone can react. Very few can respond with awareness. Every day, life gives you opportunities to react. A rude comment, a delayed reply, a disagreement, an unexpected problem. These situations are neutral by themselves. What gives them power is how you respond internally. When you react without awareness, emotions take over. Words are spoken you later regret. Energy is wasted. Peace is lost. But when you pause, when you choose not to react immediately, you reclaim your power. Reactions are automatic. They are driven by the ego, by fear, by past experiences. A reaction is the mind saying, I am threatened. But many times there is no real threat, only a perceived one. Someone's tone, opinion, or behavior touches an old wound. And before you realize it, you are fighting a battle that exists mostly inside your mind. Inner control does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them. When you feel anger rising, control means acknowledging it without letting it dictate your actions. You observe the emotion instead of becoming it. This awareness creates a small gap, a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap lies freedom. People with low inner control often blame others for their emotional state. You made me angry. You ruined my mood. But emotionally mature people understand a deeper truth. No one can control your reactions without your permission. Others may influence you, but they do not own your emotions. When you realize this, you stop giving your power away. Choosing not to react immediately is not weakness. It is wisdom. It shows that you value peace more than proving a point. It shows that you are confident enough to remain calm. And calmness is intimidating, not because it is aggressive, but because it is unshakable. Your reactions also shape your reputation. People remember not just what you say, but how you behave under pressure. A person who stays composed earns trust and respect. A person who reacts impulsively creates instability. Over time, your reactions become your identity. Inner control improves relationships. Many conflicts escalate not because of the issue, but because of the reaction. When you respond calmly, you de-escalate tension, you listen better, you communicate clearly. And even when disagreements remain, respect stays intact. Developing inner control takes practice. You won't master it in one day. You will react sometimes, and that's okay. What matters is awareness and willingness to improve. Each time you pause before responding, you strengthen your emotional discipline. Over time, controlled reactions lead to emotional freedom. You stop being controlled by external situations. You stop carrying unnecessary stress. You respond based on values, not impulses. Remember, life will always test you. People will provoke you. Situations will challenge you. But how you react decides whether you remain a prisoner of your emotions or become the master of them. And true strength lies in mastering yourself, not others. Every person wants confidence, but very few understand where it truly comes from. Most people think confidence is built through praise, achievements, or external validation. They believe that when others appreciate them, they will finally feel strong and secure inside. But real confidence is not given by the world, it is built in private. And the foundation of that confidence is daily self-discipline. When you consistently do what you promised yourself, self-respect is born. Self-discipline is not about being strict or punishing yourself. It is about alignment between your intentions and your actions. Every time you say you will do something and you follow through, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. I can trust myself. And trust in yourself is the deepest form of confidence. Without it, no amount of applause from others will ever feel enough. Many people struggle with low self-esteem not because they are incapable, but because they constantly break promises to themselves. They plan to wake up early, but they don't. They decide to work on their goals, but they postpone. They promise to take care of their health, but they ignore it. These small betrayals may seem insignificant, but over time they erode self-respect. The mind remembers, and slowly a quiet voice forms inside that says, "You don't follow through." Self-discipline repairs this relationship with yourself. It rebuilds integrity, not public integrity, but personal integrity. The kind that no one sees, but you feel deeply. When you keep your commitments, even small ones, you begin to stand taller. You don't need to announce your discipline. It reflects in your posture, your speech, and your presence. Daily discipline also reduces mental chaos. When your actions are inconsistent, your mind becomes restless. You carry guilt, regret, and constant self-negotiation. I should have done this. I'll start tomorrow. This inner conflict is exhausting. Discipline removes this friction. When you know what needs to be done and you do it, your mind relaxes. Clarity replaces confusion. Self-discipline creates momentum. The hardest part is starting. Once you act, motivation follows. Action produces energy, not the other way around. Each disciplined step makes the next step easier. And slowly, discipline becomes a habit rather than a struggle. Importantly, self-discipline is not about perfection. It is about consistency. Missing a day does not mean failure. Quitting does. Discipline allows flexibility without excuses. You learn to be firm with your goals and gentle with your mistakes. As self-discipline grows, self-respect deepens. You stop seeking validation because you already value yourself. You don't need approval to feel worthy. You know your strength because you've proven it to yourself repeatedly. This inner assurance is powerful. It cannot be shaken by criticism or failure. Daily self-discipline also builds emotional strength. You become less reactive, less impulsive. You learn to delay gratification. And this ability to wait, to stay focused, separates those who succeed from those who struggle. Over time, discipline transforms identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You see yourself as someone who does. And this identity change affects every area of life, relationships, work, health, and purpose. Remember, self-respect is not something you demand from others. It is something you earn from yourself. And every disciplined action is a vote for the person you want to become. When you respect yourself, confidence follows naturally, quietly, steadily, and unbreakably. Who you spend time with becomes who you think like. This is a truth that most people overlook. We assume that our thoughts are entirely our own, that our decisions are isolated, and that our beliefs are independent of the company we keep. But the reality is far more subtle and profound. Every conversation, every shared laughter, every habitual observation you engage in with others shapes your mind more than you realize. Energy is contagious. Ideas, attitudes, and emotions are infectious. If you are not careful, the wrong environment will quietly steal your peace, your focus, and even your dreams. When you are surrounded by negative, critical, or cynical people, their energy seeps into you. You may come home thinking that the day was harder than it really was. You may second guess your choices. You may feel anxious or frustrated without understanding why. It is not because you are weak. It is because the mind is like a sponge. It absorbs whatever it is exposed to repeatedly. You become a reflection of the mental and emotional climate you inhabit daily. On the other hand, when you spend time with thoughtful, supportive, and ambitious people, their energy lifts you. Their optimism becomes a model. Their discipline becomes a subtle reminder of what is possible. Even their quiet habits of reflection, patience, or resilience teach you lessons that no lecture ever could. The people around you are like mirrors, and their way of being shows up in the way you think and behave, whether consciously or unconsciously. This principle is not just about friendship or professional networks. It applies to family, colleagues, online communities, and even casual acquaintances. Every interaction leaves a residue. If most of your interactions are shallow, toxic, or draining, your mind accumulates stress. If most interactions are uplifting, constructive, and reflective, your mind accumulates strength. The choice of company is not just a social matter, it is a mental and emotional investment. Many people ignore this because they believe they can resist influence. But influence is not always blatant. It is subtle. You may argue, I am my own person, yet notice yourself complaining more after certain conversations or worrying more after scrolling certain social media threads. These are examples of unseen influence. The human brain is wired for social learning. We are designed to adapt to our surroundings. This is an evolutionary strength, but it can also be a vulnerability if left unchecked. Being mindful of who you spend time with also requires courage. Sometimes it means creating distance from people who are draining, judgmental, or stagnant. This is not selfish, it is self-preservation. You cannot grow if your environment constantly reminds you of limitations, doubts, or negativity. Growth requires space, energy, and clarity, and these are all affected by the company you keep. Positive company does more than just make you feel good in the moment. It shapes your long-term habits and worldview. If you spend time with disciplined people, you unconsciously start valuing discipline. If you spend time with curious people, your own curiosity grows. If you spend time with people who are grateful and reflective, you become more mindful of life's small blessings. This is the subtle, powerful way your environment sculpts your mind over time. Isolation is not the answer.